Welcome in, and you are sitting courtside with Karli Bell. Joining me this week is someone that I've really enjoyed in the online space. She makes some phenomenal content. She's the founder of Women's Basketball 365 and the host of Let's Talk Hoops, Cassie Chantel. Cassie, welcome in. Great to finally have some conversations here.
Honestly, this is so cool because I'm actually a fan of yours and I've been following your stuff for a while, and I love your coverage of Chicago Sky. That's one of my teams. So this is an honor to be here. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I love it. And I'm also loving the jersey representation that we got going on.
This is like my classic OG. You feel me?
I got you. So the day that we're recording this, the Sky picked up their 10th loss of the season to the Atlanta Dream, another double-digit loss. I will say this, watching that game though, and Tyler Marsh said it after the game, that he believes that was the most complete game that the Sky have played all season, including those 3 wins that they had. Just overall, I always like asking other people's opinions on what they see out of the Sky because, yeah, I'm the one that's in it. I'm around it all the time, but sometimes there's things that I miss because I'm so immersed in it. But watching the Sky and seeing what they've done so far with a brand new head coach and a brand new roster, what's kind of stood out to you from what the Sky are doing to start the season?
Yeah, I mean, they've come a long way because watching them in preseason, I didn't know what I was looking at. So I can say that there has been growth. I think that there has been buy-in, there has been adjustments on the coaching end from how players are performing and what skill sets he's utilizing. I think in the beginning, there was a lot of perimeter action for Angel Reese. I think now she's still on the perimeter some, but she's working in that high-low, which I think is the best fit for her. I know that everyone wants her to be this point forward, and I believe that she's going to be that. I've said from the beginning, she reminds me of Alyssa Thomas, and she wants that piece to her game like Alyssa and Satu, and that's where she's trending. But I think working it in the high-low is going to be best versus her bringing it up, from baseline to baseline, like how it kind of started off in the beginning. So I like those adjustments. I've always liked the connection between her and Camilla, her and Elizabeth Williams. She passes to bigs the best. She said the bigs make the best passes. And I think that that's true in the sense from big to big, because I think that they know where they want to get the ball. They know how to move it in the right angle because they have that experience. I think that Ariel Atkins is coming into her own as the star that they want her to be. They traded their 3rd pick for her. So obviously they had high hopes. So I think that she needs to score 20 plus a night for them to be successful. And I think that she's finally reaching that mark. I like Beck Allen moving into that starting lineup. I've been advocating for that for a while. There was a compromise because honestly, I thought that she should have been in the starting lineup over Kia Nurse, but now Kia Nurse and her are in the starting lineup. Whatever. She's in the starting lineup. That works. I think Elizabeth Williams is just on the rise. She's getting better. I know that she was recovering from that injury a lot of last season, but now she's standing out into who she's always been in the W. So I think there's just been a lot of growth, and I'm liking the progression that I'm seeing. I think that he's right with it being one of the most complete games because I think that makes the fans feel a little bit better about the losses when they can see the progression and they know what they're looking at.
Yo, Sky fans are real loud on Twitter, y'all. Like they are blowing up my mentions consistently. They're like, ask the hard questions. I'm like, I am. I'm just not getting the answers that y'all enjoy. Like, that's not my problem.
Right.
But no, I will say I was watching that game. What's crazy is before the game, I was sitting here and I'm like, man, if I have to sit through another 3rd quarter collapse, I don't know if I can sit through this season. And I will say this, though, the one thing that I've harped on since the beginning has been the turnover issue. Like they, for whatever reason, cannot hold on to the ball. And not only could they not hold on to the ball, they were allowing so many points off turnovers, a league high 20 plus points off turnovers, which that's how you lose ball games. Like yeah, poor shooting that's always there. Not having good playmaking abilities, assisting, that can cause it. But giving up that many points off turnovers, and if you look at a lot of their losses, they were by those margins that they gave up off turnovers. The Mystics game was the biggest prevalence of it. The Sky were up by as much as 16 and then give up 20 plus points off 40 turnovers.
That was a tough loss.
That was really painful, honestly. I sat there and I said, wow, double-digit lead. And then the third quarter started, and I went back and I looked back at the play-by-play after the game, and they had 3 scoring droughts of 2 to 2.5 minutes in that quarter. Like, you can't. And then off of that, they're in that one, in the first scoring drought, 3 turnovers that turned into 8 points. Second scoring drought, 3 turnovers that turned into 9 points. And then on top of that, when Brittany Sykes is just kind of going off, there's really nothing you can do to stop Slim. But I do want to ask you things about the Atlanta Dream, because for me, I wasn't sure how they were going to look, because yes, they have Brittany Griner. Yes, you have Brianna Jones, Ryan Howard, Allisha Gray. 1,000%. The names on paper looked great. And as we heard from Kareem Copeland last week, it's like a fantasy team. It looks great on paper, but will things work? From what you've seen out of Atlanta, being in the area and watching them a lot closely than I have, what has kind of stood out to you about what Atlanta is doing and why it's working so well for them?
First of all, I knew that Atlanta was going to be a powerhouse as soon as they made the decision to hire Coach Smesco, because I had to do my research. As soon as I heard the name, like, okay, he's a winning coach. Let me see how he talks. What's his philosophy? So I did a lot of watching of his old interviews, and I'm like, he's a basketball savant. He is really into this thing. I knew that his schemes were going to work out. And on top of that, he has the personnel. The GM made the right moves to bring the right players in. So the shakeup in culture is the biggest thing that I see. Just watching them from last season to this season, they look a lot happier on the court. And when you're happier, you're going to play great basketball, or at least it's going to look good. So, you have the personnel, they're having fun. That's a big thing. And then using the weapons that he has to their highest degree. I think Allisha Gray is finally getting the chance to be who she is. And that's huge. She's one of the best guards in the league, and she's finally being unleashed. She's up 10% on her field goal percentage from last season. This is her career best. She's up 8% in 3-point percentage. Everything, every shooting stat, free throws, threes, field goals, she's up, and by a substantial amount. So that's great. And then that alleviates pressure from Ryan Howard, who has always been, she's still that star, but she can kind of lean on Allisha Gray a little bit more. And then they can lean on Brianna Jones, who is consistent. And then BG is a starter, but in my mind, she's an X factor for me because she's a little bit worn down at this point in her career. So she's not going to always be able to give you a high volume of minutes. But when she comes in, you know that you can get the ball to her and she's a guaranteed bucket. So that's an X factor to me. The pieces that they have coming off the bench, Tahina Powpow, I've said when I followed March Madness for the last couple of seasons that Tahina Powpow was starter ready. I love that we got the chance to see her as a starter for a few games. She's still working on her defense and gaining that trust from Smesco in that regard. But what she's able to give them offensively off of the bench in that 6-player position is great. I thought Shatori Walker-Kimbrough was great. She still hasn't come into what I know that she can be, but she's there, and it's just a matter of that switch flipping on, and it's going to be great. So I think all of the pieces, and Maya Caldwell, can't forget about her. She's a very scrappy player who can come in and be that defensive stop that you need down the stretch. So right now, they're really just fine tuning. I don't think anything needs to happen. Someone asked me recently about, well, do the Dream need to make a change before the trade deadline hits? Do they need to make any? No, don't touch anything. Just fine tune it, figure out the rotations, and I think that we're championship contenders.
Wow, championship contenders is a hot take.
For
me, it's just specifically what Minnesota is doing, but Minnesota and New York, man, they are just playing some unbelievable, unreal basketball at this time. And it's something that it's hard for me to just look over. But after watching Atlanta take on the Sky these last 2 games, and then the few times I've been able to watch them outside of that, one, they love that 3 ball. And the other thing is they're efficient from there too. I think their average on the season is around 45-46%. If you're shooting that from the 3-point line, you're going to win ball games. Ryan Howard, man, I love her game I really respect Allisha Gray. Obviously, she's a phenomenal guard. She's also so dynamic and so athletic, and she's got so much in her bag. But what Rhyne Howard's athleticism can bring to a team is really incredible. I covered her at the University of Kentucky at my first job, and I watched her as a freshman, and I said, that's a WNBA player. And she just has this length, this athleticism, and this strength that she finally doesn't, like you said, doesn't have to carry the load all on her own. She can rely on Allisha Gray. And I also think a really great steal for Atlanta, like you said, was Te-Hina Paopao. That's who I had the Sky picking, early on in the season before, the draft just kind of went all over the place. So, I also had them taking Sonia Citron and, at number 3. And then the 3 pick went away. So, there's things that have really stuck out. But there's one thing that I do want to discuss that actually happened after the game. We're going to play the clip here in a minute, but the Players Association Secretary Elizabeth Williams opened the post-game press conference with a statement regarding the CBA. Let's take a listen.
But first, on behalf of my teammates and every member of our union, I want to be clear that we remain committed to negotiating the next CBA with the league and the teams in good faith and privately. But we do want to set the record straight, not for the headlines, but for the fans who support us and deserve transparency about what's at stake. This is a defining moment for the WNBA, and as the league grows, it's time for a CBA that reflects our true value. We're fighting for a fair share of the business that we build. It's business. We're not fighting for anything unreasonable. We're fighting to share in the growth that we've created. Every other category across this business has grown. Media rights, ticket sales, team values. The only thing that's still capped is player salaries. We deserve a fair share, and we're demanding salaries that reflect our true value. Again, it's business. We see the fans showing up, we see them filling arenas, tuning in on TV, buying merch, growing the game, and we want to grow with it. In historic record-breaking fashion, growing the game, and we want to grow with it. We're 25 days away from All-Star, just under 4 weeks, so the clock is ticking. We come out here and play almost every night for these fans, and we will continue to do that. But the current system is unsustainable for us. And that means it's unsustainable for a business that we create. Nothing short of transformational change will do for the future we see and the fans clearly see. So we're paying attention. For any further comment on the CBA or our ongoing negotiations, please contact our union staff. On behalf of my teammates, we have no additional comment on this at this time.
All right, Cassie, after hearing what Elizabeth Williams said in that statement to open up the press conference about the CBA, first off, what's just like your initial reaction to hearing
Oh. No, seriously, I think that that's serious business. I think that the players have been alluding to this and just alluding to not being happy. But this sounds like a formal statement. This sounds like it was strategic, like, hey, I want you to say this in this moment right now. So I think that it's very likely that we're going to actually have a lockout. Like when Angel Reese kind of teased it on her podcast, I was like, that sounds cute. Maybe they'll do it. Maybe they won't. But no, this sounds like this is actually going to happen. And I don't know how to feel as a fan because, of course, I want them to have all of the things that they want. But then if it's a lockout as a fan, that means we're not going to get basketball and we don't know when we're going to get it. We don't know if the WNBA is going to actually concede to their demands. And if they don't, then what's going to happen? So it's just a lot in the air to think about. What are your thoughts?
I mean, for me, I've always said that this is the most important CBA, not only in WNBA history, but in women's sports history, because this CBA negotiation is going to set a precedent for the next 20 years. Because for the first time in women's sports history, women have the power. Candace Parker said it beautifully earlier over these last couple of weeks while she's been on this book tour, that women's sports was always seen as a charity, and now it's being seen as a business. And for the first time, the players have the power because of what the NCAA women's tournament was able to do, putting that full tournament in. People don't even understand. Candace Parker, Diana Taurasi, who else can I name? Breanna Stewart, Maya Moore, Lindsay Whalen, Lisa Leslie, their collegiate careers were never fully broadcasted. The first careers that were fully broadcasted is Juju Watkins, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Sonia Citron, Aaliyah Boston are these last 2 draft classes. That's what people don't seem to understand. So when you finally make women's sports visible to the public, it's going to boom and it's going to prosper. When Dejanay said that on Angel's podcast and they were teasing it, I'm like, oh, okay, it's sold now. It's done. Like a lockout's happening. And then I think what was the nail in the final nail in the coffin, was when the WNBA announced the multi-year partnership with Scripps without consulting the WNBA Players Association to do a whole media rights negotiation and not at all consult the Players Association about how funds are going to be distributed, how you want the broadcast to go, any of that. Kind of shows that the league, I don't know if I want to say it this way, but there's really no other way to say it. I don't think the league understands how serious the players are about locking out, because guess what? 80% of the league is free agents next year. So you only have these rookies and these second, possibly third year players available to play, but they're also part of the union. So they may also lock out and they may not be available. So what are you going to just rely on the 3 or 4 draft picks, then bring in a boatload of international talent that haven't been a part of the union yet? I mean, I don't think that would be smart for the league to do either. And here's the other thing. They only really they have the rest of the season this summer to get it negotiated. Yes. But in reality, they have 2 months, because the last day of the WNBA season, if the finals go all the way to, game 7 this year, because it's finally of 7 games, is October 16th. So you have from October 16th to like January 6th, January 7th, in that range to get it done, because general managers start contacting players that first full week of January, with contracts and everything being signed that first full week of February. If you can't get something negotiated in that 2.5 month time, there's going to be a lockout. And if I'm a player and I'm seeing this growth and I'm seeing all these things come in, and they're valuing expanding the league over expanding rosters, and they're valuing bringing in partnerships, but not giving players the ability to make sales and make revenue off their merch, not have a percentage of the merch sales, not see any increase in salaries. If I'm a player, I'm sitting out of this league as well. Because at the end of the day, you got to make money somehow. You got bills to pay. Guess what? Unrivaled's here. And Unrivaled is paying a lot more than what the league is paying.
And has insurance.
Athletes Unlimited also paying more. International ball has always been there. So it's not like these women don't have anywhere to play. They absolutely have somewhere to play. So if I'm a player and you don't get it negotiated by the time basically Unrivaled starts, I would lock out. And I think that's what Elizabeth Williams is saying, is like, we're watching what you're doing. So you should probably want to have conversations with us, or else this is going to be a problem.
You saying all of this, the only thing that comes to mind is Kathy Engelbert and what this does for her in her position. I feel like if there is a lockout, even if there isn't a lockout, because a lot of these decisions, I don't know how all of this works, but it feels like some of these decisions had to be ran by the commissioner. So I feel like that she has to have a role in some of these decisions. I think that her position could be in hot water due to all of this.
I would not disagree with that. But at the end of the day, remember, commissioners are very similar to other commissioners in the league. Owners have to support you. Right now, the owners support Kathy. Owners support Kathy. Doesn't mean players do. So, and there could be shakeups in ownership. We're seeing that the Connecticut Sun are looking to sell the team. There's been talks of other teams. There's also what happened with the Lakers selling. Now that you have that full under the same ownership, Lakers, Sparks, and Dodgers are now all under the same ownership. Mm-hmm. There's rumors of other teams here in the league that could be changing and switching things up here. Nothing's obviously guaranteed. There's nothing that there's any truth to it. Rumors are rumors, but it's something that for me, as someone who played ball for a long time and has coached, it makes me really happy to see that the women have the power for the first time, and they're utilizing it, and they know how important and impactful this CBA will be. As a media member, as someone who enjoys covering the W, I don't want the W to be locked out, so I have something to cover. But at the end of the day, as a human being, I want to see these women get their fair share. Before we continue on our conversation, we're going to tell you where you can find us. You can find us on all platforms at Courtside KB. That's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads. Blue Sky, I got them all in one take. Look at that. Proud of myself. You can find us on YouTube at Courtside with Karli Bell. If you make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. We also have a website that is for free for all fans where we get in-depth analysis on the Chicago Sky and also on the WNBA. That's courtsidewithkarlibell.com. And then if you love exclusive content and you just like hearing me talk even more than I already do, we have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/courtside with Karli Bell, with exclusive content dropping on Thursdays. If you join that zone tier, that just means you support the pod and you get the pod early. And that's all that is. And I salute you. Thank you. I appreciate that. But you join that man-to-man tier, not only do you get the podcast early, you also get that exclusive content. $6. You pay more for Netflix, you pay more for Hulu, you pay more for almost anything. $6 is a bargain in this account. I think it's cheaper than eggs right now. So
I'm actually sold. You just sold me.
there we go. There we go. All right. So we talked Sky, we talked CBA. Now let's get into the rest of the league. And I always like asking anyone who comes on this pod, who is a team that has really surprised you at the start? You know, we're about 13 to 14 games in. Some teams have played 15, some teams have played 12. We're around the quarter of the way through. Who has really shocked you or surprised you with how well or how poorly they're doing too?
I think the no-brainer answer is the Valkyries, right? The expansion team coming in and beating Las Vegas, the Indiana Fever, you know, just those big wins under their belt. While in preseason, I thought they would be lucky to beat the Connecticut Sun, you know? So I'm very impressed with Coach Nakase and their ownership and the GM for everything that they put together in San Francisco. Just a great shock to me. Like, I'm a fan. I bought a Valkyries hat. They got the lids HD drop. I'm like, I'm on board. And I honestly am shocked by the Aces doing poorly. Now, I knew, like, in my projections at the end of the season, I had them ranked a little low for some people's taste. I saw the rebuild. I still think that at the end of this season, that the whole thing is going to get blown up. I think that we're going to see some really big moves with the Aces, whether that be a lot of the franchise players, like, because, you know, they had that core four. I think that whole thing is getting broken up. I think the only guarantee is A'ja Wilson, unless she demands out, but I don't believe that. I think that the only sure thing with the Aces next season will be A'ja Wilson. I just don't see them continuing on with how they are right now. They were able to secure the win today, at least against Indiana, but it looked bad. And the defense has looked bad for a while. So I'm still surprised, even though I kind of knew. But yeah, I'm surprised more so because I love the Aces. That's one of my teams, and I just wanted them to be better. But, you know, here we are.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Kareem Copeland, I'm going to continue to reference him, man, because he's just a WNBA savant in this space. He basically said what he's seen out of the Aces is last year, if they got up on you like double digits, that was it. Like they're going to just continue. That foot is on their opponent's neck, and it's going to get blown up even more. This year, they'll get out to a lead and then they'll lax, which allow whoever they're playing to get back into it and make it competitive. I think you have a real interesting take, though, that you believe that the team is going to kind of be blown up after this. That's something I haven't heard because let's be real. Look, the Chicago Sky as a franchise is an interesting franchise, and I'm going to just leave it at that. You know, I could go very in depth. It's an interesting franchise. The Aces have a top tier practice facility. They're in a growing, booming sports market. You have Becky Hammond there, and you have a billionaire funding everything. You have an unlimited checkbook, basically, to get almost anything you want. You have unbelievable media, unbelievable resources. So for you to think that they're going to implode, I mean, why do you think that that's going to happen? That's such an interesting take.
I think that the Valkyries are really, and I didn't even mean to do that, but they're that's a large contrast. You have these blue collar workers, these players that come from teams where they really got garbage time minutes and they were 6 players, and you see how hard they're working. You see that they're in the essence of women's basketball is what the Valkyries are playing right now. And I think that the Aces are playing the opposite. I think that they're playing NBA style basketball. And I don't think that that's working anymore in this league. Everyone has caught up talent wise. And I think that they are working as, like, I was screaming at my TV, like, play transition defense. Like, they're not hustling on some plays. Like, it's not consistent. Like, they have bursts where they look really good and they look like that team that can compete for a championship. But I think most of the time, which is why their record is what it is right now, they're not playing as hard as they could be playing. They're walking into their sets. They're just not hustling. And I don't know if they're a team full of stars. Like, any one of those players that's in the starting lineup could probably go to another team and be the franchise player by themselves and be that number one option. But I don't think that that's sustainable in this league anymore. I think the Valkyries are the example of that. And then it's just funny that Coach Nakase is coming from Coach Becky Hammond's,
tree.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I just don't think that it's working. And I think that they see that. I think that they know that. I think Coach Hammond is just listening to her impressors. I think that she's a little bit fed up. She's trying to get through this season. She's trying to get over the hump, but I would not be surprised. I would love to be wrong, but I would not be surprised.
I mean, you make a good point though, because when everybody, including myself, I had Golden State projected to finish last just because historically expansion teams don't do well. But for them to be doing as well as they're doing and there's really no other way to say it, but like people that were considered players that teams didn't really need, like the castaways, and they're still producing and they're producing wins, and also they're really competitive even in their losses. Like that, you make a really valid point. I'm also going to say this, that Golden State Valkyries court though on television looks phenomenal.
It looks great.
It's so pretty. And everything that I've read, from fans that are there and people that are covering the Valkyries, which I want to try and get someone who covers the Valkyries to come on and talk about what that organization is doing in their first year. So if you know anybody, fans, send them my way. But I'm really, really impressed with also the buy-in from a brand new fan base to be out there supporting this team. Like they're already making revenue. They're doing great things. Their marketing has been very well done. Like, I'm genuinely impressed. I will say this. I just got to give a shout out because Phoenix was in town. Getting to see Kahleah Copper play basketball in person. I'm sorry. If you haven't had the chance, go do it. Like, now that she's back and she's healthy after the knee surgery and everything that she had done, she's just so fun to watch in person. She really is. I enjoyed covering her when she was here in Chicago. A hilarious individual, someone I enjoyed talking to all the time. So good to see her back and really thriving in a very good Mercury team. Okay, now let's get into some conversations. We've talked about MVP. In my mind, it's MVP. There are some people, I will say this, and I might be open to this take. Some people believe Allisha Gray should be considered.
I'm on that train.
Give me your campaign. Give me the campaign for it. Let me hear it.
I don't have much of a campaign other than I'm an Atlanta Dream fan, to be honest. I know that it's going to Napheesa Collier. She's doing amazing work. It's just undeniable. I think MVP is correct. She's the best player in the league right now. People are going to be upset that I said that and not A'ja Wilson, but I think that the only difference between her and A'ja at this point is Fee has to catch up when it comes to championships. But I think the skill set, they're right there. But Fee has a wider range now because her efficiency from three, that's something that A'ja is still striving to. So I think that she's the best player in the league right now.
I think just she's playing with a new fire is Fee. We've said it every week, but like there's just, even she's not playing right now currently, she's on the sidelines, but just, in the games that she's played the previous part of the season, it's just incredibly impressive. But not only are we talking MVP, we also like to talk other awards on the show. And we were talking before I hit record, and you have a very interesting take for a certain award, which is Rookie of the Year. In my mind, it's Paige Bueckers, because I feel like it was somewhat decided before the season even started, which I don't think is fair to some other rookies, including a rookie that you think should be in the conversation. Who do you think that should be?
I'm still going Kiki Iriafen. I think that she plays the tougher position. That's arguable. But I think that Paige had a slower progression to what we're seeing now. And Kiki just got started right off the bat, and she was able to really defend tough matchups like A'ja Wilson, like Napheesa. I mean, it's just, yeah, that's where I am. I think she plays the tougher position. I think she's been more consistent outside of the game where she plays Chicago and Angel Reese play defense really well on her, to be honest.
Dominated her. Just fully dominated her.
Until Paige just, consistently gives me 20+ point games with 7+ assists, which she's leading I think she's leading the league in assists right now.
I believe so. I know she's leading rookies, but I believe she is leading the league right now in assists.
She might end up edging it out, but I don't think there's been enough games yet for me to change my vote from Kiki Iriafen, because for a while it was like Sonia Citron, Kiki Iriafen, and I couldn't decide. But then it's still like Sonia is still not out of the conversation because she's such a complete player, and she'll get 17 points on you and you won't even know that she's gotten 17 points. And my only wish for her is sometimes I want her to be a little more aggressive. So I'm still going, the rookie of the year still belongs to the Washington Mystics rookies until Paige can consistently do that. Maybe in 3 to 4 more games, if Paige is still Paige, then I'll be like, okay, Paige, you earned what we already gave you.
We earned what we already gave you. That's I like that. Now, I'm going to throw this question at you because I'm liking your takes here. 6th player of the year. For me, at the start of the season, I was looking at a few options for who could be, that 6th person of the year. Right now, and now I don't know who it could be. It's kind of one of those, it's always a race that I really like to see because it really doesn't get determined until August. Because it's when who is that person that comes off the bench that provides that electric energy for your team to like catapult to the next level. Right now, if you had to pick somebody for 6POY, who would you put in the conversation?
Natisha Heidemann. I think that's for me, that's a no-brainer.
Interesting.
She's outperforming Courtney Williams. And, I think that she's been that X factor for the Lynx because all of the Lynx wins have not been pretty. And a lot of that spark that they've gotten has been from Natisha Heidemann. She's been consistent. I think there was only one game that she didn't play like herself this season, but other than that, she's been their X factor. And I think that she's a no-brainer. I think that the Lynx have a really high chance of being in the finals again. So yeah, I'm going to Tisha.
I love that. Are you a fan of the Stud Buds as much as I am?
They're hilarious.
They're so funny. Oh my gosh. I'll tune in every now and then on Twitch and I can't stop cackling. I love that they're live streaming. That's great. 2 of them need to, I'm going to say this right now. They need to get into broadcasting when their career is over. I want to hear them calling games. Could you imagine either of them as the color commentator for any game?
Yeah,
that'd be amazing.
If by the time their careers are over, then I feel like the fans will have become less sensitive because I think that they're so funny that people can take things out of context. And so I think that's great. I think that they should have their own like reality show, like kind of like Sid and TP. I think they need to do that.
Oh, I like that. You want to know something? Something I'd love to see, and I've talked about this, unfortunately we saw the end of NBA on TNT and we had such an amazing crew there of Kenny and Charles and Shaq and EJ. And I want to have I've always pitched that the W needs to have something similar. And you got to have your people on there that are real great about the analytics of the game. Like I think Candace Parker should be on there 1,000%. But I think if you really want to have some fun with it, you could put Sydney Colson and Courtney Williams as like your Shaq and your Chuck. And I think that would be such a lovely pairing on the desk. Yeah. I think that'd be great. I think that would be great. Cassie, I appreciate just talking hoops with you. It's a lot of fun. I love getting other people's takes. I've also just loved your content online, which speaking of, where can the people find you? Where can they find all of your takes and knowledge and intellect around the women's game?
Instagram, Facebook, Cassie Chantel. Also TikTok, Cassie Chantel. I have a website, womensbasketball365.com. That is the hub. So if for some reason I'm not on, I'm on Threads as WBB.365. But if for some reason you forget how to spell Cassie Chantel, go to womensbasketball365.com and you will find all my social media handles, and all of my videos will also be posted on the website. I'm also doing articles. I'm following the dream this season. So yeah, check me out on womensbasketball365.com.
She's got great content, great short form content that I've really enjoyed. I've started to model some of my short form content after how you do things. You got some cool. I like the creativity behind it. I always like to take from other creators and, see how I can blend it in my own way. But that's all we have here. Thank you so much for joining me here, Cassie, and you guys will catch me next time on the sidelines.